if you're a product developer, sometimes you're responsible for creating a course or a program on a subject matter where you're not the expert, right? And suddenly you're responsible for teaching this project, which can feel contrarian or hypocritical at first. Why are you even teaching something if you are not the expert? But just because you're not the expert doesn't mean that you can't teach it, right? So, for example, my cousin was trying to teach me how to play the guitar, right? And the dude has perfect pitch, perfect absolute pitch, perfect relative pitch, and he's just an amazing musician. And so he started trying to teach me how to play the guitar, and this is how he taught me, right? He says, put your hands here, and then just start playing. And it didn't make any sense to me, right? And what I realized was he was such an expert that he wasn't able to teach it, right? He just heard the song, kind of knew where to put his hands, and he could replicate the rhythm. But what I needed was someone who could break down, this is where you put your hands, this is how you build up fluency in your strumming, this is how you listen to a song and be able to identify what the notes were, right? And those are all things that he couldn't do because he was the expert and he just knew it, right? He knew it so well that it was difficult for him to communicate because he never had to think about it that way. And that's why sometimes it's okay that if you're the product developer, you are helping the subject matter expert teach what they know in their head, right? Because they may not be able to teach it themselves, and that's why they need you. So when you're creating a new product, it just feels like complete chaos sometimes, especially in the beginning. There's a million things you need to do. First, you need to get a foundational understanding of the field that you're teaching. So this involves doing a lot of research. You're reading blogs, you're reading magazines, you're reading books, you're taking other people's courses who may have taught the material before so that you can understand their frameworks, how they taught it, and just get a deeper understanding of the material. You have to do customer research, which means going through and identifying the people that you'd want to talk to, creating interview questions that are going to elicit the type of responses that you're looking for. I like to do background research on my people that I'm about to interview, so that way I can ask them questions in context and I have a thorough understanding of like what they've already gone through and how their experiences may color their responses that they give me. And I also like to do user personas after I have done the interview, which in of itself takes a lot of time, the scheduling, the coordination, and then sitting down and doing the interview, right? So there's that whole thing of customer research. And then finally, once you've done all the research, you need to start like organizing the thoughts and the new ideas and the frameworks and the positioning in your head, right? And you don't know where anything goes, right? It's like trying to piece together a jigsaw puzzle when everything's just a different shade of blue, right? There's nothing to really identify where this piece should go. You're just kind of guessing a lot of the time. And as you guess, as you start to piece things together, you slowly put together your table of contents. But these three things, getting an understanding of the subject matter, doing your customer research, and creating and organizing the information into a table of contents, they're all happening in parallel, right? It's not in series where you can just knock off one, check the list, knock off another, check the box, and then go to the other, right? They all have to happen at the same time, and it just leaves you with this feeling of chaos, and you don't know if you're making progress. It feels like you're just kind of you're just spinning your wheels for a lot of the time, and that can get really frustrating if you don't realize that that's kind of just part of the process, especially in the beginning. So to add another layer of complexity to that is you're the person developing this course, and maybe you're working for a new company or you're working for a new boss, and you have to make sure that you're in agreement on the tone of the program. Meaning, how do you want the course to feel? Is it going to be like a university lecture? Is it a fireside chat where the person is supposed to be, they're supposed to feel like they're just talking directly to the person one-on-one, right? So university lecture, that's something like the Stanford University lectures, obviously, right? Those are put online. that's that feel, right? You feel like you're sitting in the classroom versus something like Masterclass, right? They do a really good job of making it feel like you're one-on-one working with the expert, whether it's Usher for dancing or Christina Aguilera for singing, whatever, right? It feels like a one-on-one interaction. Is your style better suited for PowerPoint presentations, right? Where you have the aid of diagrams and bullet points, what have you? Or is it meant for that face-to-face communication where you have to be able to deliver everything basically just by speaking, right? You have to, as a product developer, communicate that your style to the company, to your boss, and also make sure it fits with what their vision of their program is going to look like, right? And so if you guys are not aligned on that, or if you create something and then realize you're not aligned, it's gonna cost a lot of money to fix. It costs you a lot of time, it costs you a lot of resources, and you're better off getting that alignment sooner rather than later, which presents this problem, right? Because you are doing all these things to become a subject matter expert, and on the other hand, you need to start creating the vision for what your course is going to look like, and it's just a lot to juggle all at one time. So it's a lot going on. It's totally normal, and it's just part of the process that you have to embrace as a product developer. One thing that I tried recently that really helped with this was I took a 45-minute presentation that my boss did on the subject matter. And the subject matter in this case was retention and engagement. And I created a simple course outline using just this 45-minute presentation. And what it ended up looking like was took the presentation and the output was 8 video scripts. Each script had the headline or the title of what I would want the video to be. And then I had the stories that I would incorporate into the script, plus like 6 or 7 bullet points that communicated the main beats or points that I wanted each video to communicate. And by just reading this script, you got a very clear idea as to what points I was trying to make, and more importantly, how I was trying to deliver this message. All right. So what's the point of taking the time to create this sort of like mini outline of a presentation that ultimately isn't the final product, right? Like this is a 45-minute presentation on retention and engagement. You cannot cover retention and engagement in 45 minutes, right? Not at the level that we're trying to do it at. But what narrowing the scope allowed me to do was that I could show what a full course would look like as a minimum viable product. In other words, there's this famous example of, do you deliver a skateboard or do you deliver half a car? And in this instance, I was able to deliver a skateboard, right? Was it the full program? Of course not. Like I said, you can't teach retention and engagement in a 45-minute presentation. But at the very least, I could show them, here's my tone, here is the stories that I would like to use, and here's kind of how I'm thinking of organizing the information. And that is useful in of itself for the company to see like the direction that their product developer is taking. At this stage, I don't know how long the research is going to be. I don't know how long it would take to create our actual table of contents, and I don't know how long it would take to actually create the content that I want to show, or I want to the content for the course itself, right? Like I don't know how long all that's going to take. But just by doing this minimum viable product, I was able to show, I was able to see already that there are holes that I didn't anticipate in the program. For example, in the presentation, we didn't talk much about churn, right? And churn is probably something that we're going to want to cover in the full program. Second, I was able to show off the narrative approach that is sort of my style, and I was able to communicate where I was placing those stories, right? For example, did the stories come in the beginning? Is that how I set the tone for the rest of the video? Or are stories just something that I use as examples at the end of making a point? So by delivering this which only took a couple days. My boss has seen my approach, and I didn't have to describe it to him, right? It's classic show versus tell. I showed him it, and now we can have a discussion as to what works and what doesn't work for him. We were able to have conversations around the stories that I was using. He was able to see what sorts of headlines that I liked to use, and we can start calibrating for the next iteration. And hopefully this saves us time and money in the overall development of this course, which is going to take a long time, but we're going to be able to charge a premium on it, right? So any steps that we take to save on the time spent and the money spent on creating this course to deliver something that's high value to the end user, just well worth it, right? And I would highly recommend giving that a shot, doing the minimum viable product of your course and using that to communicate your intent and your narrative and your tone to your boss.